Alright, so thought we'd try something new this week. Me being the impatient person that I am, waiting for Nevin to finish watching the handball second half. Uh, it being 7 o'clock in the morning and all. Just wanted to empty my thoughts and, well, while we're waiting for Nev to get into the European football, and so we can have dialogue on that for the next, I don't know, 20 so minutes. I'll try. I know I have a tendency to talk a lot, but 20 so minutes you're here stuck with me. So we're talking about European football, and I thought we'd just go chronological order what we saw in the weekend and Villarreal. I know a lot has been made of, Real Madrid historically not naming a Spanish player in the lineup. That's just a consequence of modern football, obviously. But they fall to a defeat away at Villarreal, and Villarreal at the start of the season were a little bit of my dark horse. I thought they'd at least be in that mix for the top four, and a good run of form since Kike Setien has been in has led them to be in that race now, as we speak, playing a game against Celta Vigo on the Saturday morning. So an important one for them to consolidate on what they did against Real Madrid. But I don't know. Every time I watch Villarreal, and especially when I see a starting 11, and it's funny because they've been quite injured this season, and even when they've been injured, I've looked at the starting 11 and I've thought there's a lot of good parts to this. There's a lot of good players in this system. I mean, they didn't make the Champions League semi-finals last season for no reason. So it's not a hot take me saying I fancy Villarreal, but they are a good side, and I keep harping back onto it because I've talked about Tottenham maybe going for it, but Danny Parejo continues to impress me. Like a fine wine, keeps getting better with age. I've always liked Juan Foyt. He was a bit raw when he was still at Tottenham, so I don't completely blame them for selling him. But I like that he's multifunctional between right back and centre back. Surprised that they let Geronimo Rulli go. And looks like they're gonna rely on Pepe Reina for the rest of the season. Crazy. He must be I don't know. He's at least pushing 40. And talk about experience. Raul Albiol at the back. He continues to impress me as well. I know you're a little bit limited in exactly the way you can play when you play with someone like Raul Albiol, but even in the spaces, his experience seems to get him through. He's played at big clubs. Let's not forget, Napoli, Real Madrid, um, even Valencia. I guess they're the ones that pop to mind. And yeah, just I don't know. Pau Torres next to him. They lost Estupian, so left back they're a little bit weaker, but Pedraza, for the most part, in the first part of the season, did a decent job, and obviously in that midfield as well. The other guy I'm super impressed with has been Baena, who has looked really good. I know Coquelin, he's pretty functional as well, good squad player, with Kapui, I think, out for this game. And then Gerard Moreno was fantastic up front playing that. I know I've said it, but the poor man's Harry Kane. And yeah, I thought Villarreal were completely deserved of this win. I know there was penalties in the second half. I think both were very soft, so it evened itself out. And Villarreal already had that lead, and a luxury as well to bring Danjuma off the bench. I think this Villarreal team and this squad, maybe, is it unfair to say that it's better than Atletico's and it's maybe the third best starting 11 and squad in the league? Maybe starting 11, maybe Atletico's squad is just a little bit deeper, but yeah, Villarreal I fancy to put together a run. Who knows? Now that I've said this and we're speaking, as we're speaking, they're playing. They'll probably lose, but yeah, Villarreal, super impressive win. Real Madrid on the flip side. The point coming out of that one, and I think we've said it all season, is Tchouameni's great, but he's not Casemiro. Casemiro is he's getting to a point where he's maybe the best midfielder in the world. And that's just without putting the holding sort of qualifier on it. So yeah, like Man United, what a purchase, whether it was on purpose or accidentally, whether it was Ten Hag or not. But yeah, without him in the team, and I think I said this at the start of the season or the first half of the season during it. It's like, let's see when they get the big challenges. Let's see how Chouameni holds a midfield, not by himself, But like we know how good Luka Modric is, but he is 30, what, 8, 37, 38. So he is old, and eventually, Father Time, it just diminishes more and more what you can do. So I know we've said he's been getting better and everything, and yeah, maybe cerebrally he has been, but physically, like you can't beat time. So Tony Cruz has, I don't know, not been carried. He still offers something, but his lack of mobility is really worrying. So that's why I say it's not. He's obviously, because of the experience of those two, he's obviously not holding that midfield down by himself, but he is holding down an aging midfield, and he is the legs, and he's the big thing is he's not the presence that Casemiro was. He's probably a better ball player, sure, Benny, but in terms of that presence, the ability to clog the gaps, the ability to help what is at times a raggedy Real Madrid defense. We said it in the run in last season how they were a bit of a roller coaster ride all the way to the final. Obviously, with that historic run, but that defense with Alaba as a left centre back, with Rudiger coming in now, these are all very proactive defenders who want to step into midfield to press, and it's great for the most part. But when a team goes at you and is playing well, as Villarreal were playing well on the day, that defense becomes a little bit raggedy. So Real Madrid, it's funny that they get put up against Liverpool because we're talking about raggedy defenses. But Real Madrid, not the most convincing. And the sneaky thing is, Benzema has been injured all season. That's not sneaky. We know we haven't seen enough of him, but he's at an age where that becomes a problem. Recovery from injuries becomes harder, and Vinny's form for maybe definitely during the World Cup and probably a couple of weeks leading into the World Cup has not been what we saw at the start, where Vinny was without doubt one of the best players in the world at the start of the season. So maybe Real Madrid and the coaching staff, they're timing it perfectly so that he ramps back up in time for the knockout stages of the Champions League and the title run But yeah, he does need to find his form for those games and maybe before that, because Barcelona have now taken a lead, stolen a march on them after their win at the Wanda. I want to start with Atletico on this because Atletico were back to like the old Atletico, but not the good old Atletico. This was like early Atletico. I know. I guess that's all part of the journey, and I guess maybe Simeone in the time away for the World Cup, and knowing that his job is very much in question, if not during the season, at the end of the season. Whether he wants to stay on or not, that remains to be seen. Whether Atletico want him to stay on, that remains to be seen. Especially, obviously, the João Felix loan move for the next 6 months adds its intrigue to the whole matter, because it's only 6 months and then he comes back, and do Atletico decide to build around him by getting him a manager who suits him better, or do they stick with Simeone and sell Felix on? So that's the intrigue there. But yeah, maybe the only explanation I could say for what I saw from Atletico was Simeone was maybe just trying to get back to the emotional, the crazy days. Maybe just trying to impart that sort of athletic thing. But look, a big problem and a big underrated problem. I guess it should be underrated now because we can't harp them back on to it all the time. But they're not at the Calderon anymore. The Wanda, yeah, it's a beautiful stadium. It's massive. They've upgraded, but they've moved their home. And Atletico, much like Liverpool, and I keep saying this about Anfield, they're a home ground team. And we've seen it in the past. We saw it for Arsenal, in fact, going from Highbury to the Emirates. We've definitely seen it with West Ham. We see it with all these clubs who, especially when you move, even location, because I feel Juve did it at a good moment where they were just about to start being good, but they stayed on the same location. And it's I don't know. I just believe in this superstitious crap when it comes to stadiums and home grounds and home ground advantages. And yeah, I don't know with that, but that's I think an underrated point in recent years. So if Simeone is trying to go back to the emotional days of the crazy days of Atletico, which it looked like in this game, because they were. I was confused by Atletico for a lot of. They used Marcos Llorente in this like roving role, and he just sort of roved the pitch and tried to disrupt in places. And look, that bit kind of worked alright because Llorente has those characteristics and qualities, but Llorente's a nice piece. He's not a build the team around sort of guy, and I guess that whole thing is to do that. João Felix plays the amount of times he was throwing his hands up in the air. Just so annoying, so annoying. The body language from that guy, and I know he's young, but he's not that young anymore. And sometimes he just needs to eat a little bit of humble pie. I think. Well, he does it now because he's gone on to Chelsea, and he'll probably be treated more favourably, especially by the fans and probably the media, than Graham Potter. So he'll be winning that duel straight away. But yeah, just annoying performance from him. Atletico, to their credit, in the second half, it looked like better at emotional Atletico because they really started to come on strong. And they probably should have at least equalised, if not won. But this is the bigger point on the flip side for Barcelona. Somehow, this Barcelona team, I don't know how, but in terms of league football, they're the best defense in Europe. What's going on? I mean, I watch it, I look at the team sheet, and I'm just like, it's it's not. That's not a defense that has only conceded 6 goals in the league. Marcus Alonso playing as a centre back is not a defense that has only conceded 6 goals. Now, admittedly, in this game they had Ronald Araujo back, which is a huge boost for them because I do think he is Barcelona's best defender. Jules Koundé is very close in that argument as well. Christensen, to his credit, had a decent game, so I know I bagmouth him a lot, but that must be said. Obviously, Pedri comes up with the moment. Maybe Atletico come up with the moment by just letting him walk into the box. Reynildo had his worst game, and I thought he was indicative of maybe the mentality shift of Atletico because I think in this first half of the season he played with a lot of composure. He played with the controlled aggression, which was what I'd say. But in this game, he's just too much aggression and sort of lost his head in moments. Dived into that tackle on Gavi, which he gets rolled and lays it off to Dembele for Barcelona to score. So, and that's the crucial goal, and that's the goal that takes Barcelona clear at the top now. So I don't know. I don't know with this Spanish title race. I don't really know with this Spanish top four race either because Atletico have fallen out. Sociedad have taken a bit of a march on it, and that's going to be an interesting game, the Basque Derby, on the weekend, which is the most interesting game in Spain with the King's Cup, not the King's Cup, the Super Cup going on in Saudi Arabia, which is a bit weird with Betis, Atletico, Real, and Barca all playing. So Betis out of the top four, obviously don't play. Atletico have a chance to bounce back against Almeria and, like I said, Villarreal against Celta Vigo as we speak. So they're the interesting ones. Definitely the Basque Derby is must watch. And Bilbao, like I said last pod, I believe a little bit on the wane. Could only draw 0-0 with Osasuna. Osasuna are a decent team, but still at home. Especially with the run of form you've been in, that's one you got to be looking to win. Iñaki just can't score. Nico has sort of dipped as you expect from a 19, 20-year-old. So, and the midfield just doesn't fill with confidence. Sancet is now playing an advanced role. I don't really like him in the advanced role. I want to see him playing in that number 8, getting box to box, but maybe he doesn't trust Muniain for some reason. I think I've said that before. So, yeah, Bilbao are not filling me with confidence like they did at the start of the season. So it's looking like I'm not even going to say it because that just opens me up to ridicule, and that's stupid to put a prediction when it's just so up and down like that. But I think we need to go over to Italy, and then I might finish on a little point from PSG. Um, but yeah, in Italy, and the big story, and if we're talking about teams who I don't know have how they have this defense, and how they've managed to get the defensive record that they have, we got to talk about Juve, don't we? And another another 1-0 win. Um, well, I'm just making sure because I watch so much football that sometimes I just lose track of where I am. Yeah, against Udinese. I wasn't sure if the Udinese game was the week before, but yeah, 1-0 win against Udinese. Late show again. unconvincing again. I thought Udinese maybe had the better chances. It was a pretty 50-50 game. I definitely, if you had to push me, I definitely wouldn't edge that Juve were the better team. So, and I feel like I've said that for the majority of these 8 games now that they have gone without conceding. The 8 games, 8 wins that have put them as the form team in not only Serie A but in Europe, and have put them second in the league going into a game that is also going out as we speak against Napoli, which is up there for the most exciting. You know what? I might leave this one for Nev, the preview, but I'll talk about the review in terms of what we've seen with Juve, and they're just not filling me with the confidence. But like I said, I don't think I've evolved any theories on Juve in terms of the 5-3-2 has really helped them. The young energy that Allegri has put in has helped them as well, I think. Yeah, so, but one thing I do want to say is we're talking about, and obviously we're talking about these criticisms that Allegri's been getting for, now it's softened obviously because he's getting results, but the criticism for the way they were playing, and especially at the start of the season, and it was just like it's this dour Allegri ball. You know how it's got Sarri ball, but now we're going with Allegri ball, and I must say that's very harsh on Allegri's mid 2010s teams. Those teams that made 2 Champions League finals in the middle of that decade in 15 and 17, and were beaten by the teams with probably the players who could definitely Barcelona with that front three, and 17. Ronaldo probably had his best final for Real Madrid, so they were unfortunate not to break through there, and obviously it was Allegri both times who takes them to the final, and I enjoyed watching that Juve team. They were good defensively because they had Bonucci, Chiellini, you could throw Barzagli in there. I wouldn't quite do it, and then obviously Buffon behind them, and then even the wing backs. I love the way they use Mandzukic as that left winger, crashing the box, especially playing opposite to Cuadrado, who would advance as the wing back and get crosses into the box. And yeah, I just thought it was a very advanced, very fun team to watch from Juve. And yeah, I think saying that Allegri's doing his old trick is unfounded for me, because I thought those teams were good. But yeah, this team is, for me, not very good. But they come into such an important game with a great run of confidence. So, like I said, we'll leave that. Napoli score another unbelievable goal. The Osimhen goal for the second, or the first, sorry, because they didn't score that outrageous penalty they got given in the opening minutes. One of the worst decisions in Europe this season, apart from obviously Juve, Salernitana, that's a different level. But yeah, and if you could put the Wolves Liverpool one in there now if you wanted to, but that goal starts from right back, Di Lorenzo playing out, and then ball gets switched beautifully against the semi-press. Sampdoria weren't too bad in this game, so across to Rui, and you can see Osimhen's run because he comes deep to hold up the ball to give it to Mario Rui, I believe, and the hold-up plays great, and then you can see them both advancing. And then it comes to a point where Rui's about to deliver the ball, and you just see Osimhen just get on his bike and have that desire to score the goal. It's fantastic. He's an underrated striker at the moment. Maybe we should pretty soon start putting him into those really top tiers, because let's not forget, with this Napoli team, I think we're watching sort of what Liverpool were last season in terms of levers and guys who are sort of compensating for other guys falling off a little bit, because I think Kvaratskhelia hasn't quite been as good as he was at the start of the season. I'm not saying he's been bad. He's still a danger. He still brings gravity, which is fantastic for the team. But Osimhen has picked up that slack since he's been back from his injury that he sustained in that Champions League tie against Liverpool, and he is probably the driving force. And he's of an age as well, I think just a little bit older than Kvaratskhelia, where he should be the driving force, and he's so hungry, and it's so fun to watch. He's such a good striker, and he's really helping propel Napoli to continue to look like at least one of the best teams in Europe. Probably the second best team in Europe, but obviously Arsenal don't have Champions League, so I always ding that against them a little bit. With Napoli doing so well in that competition, so but yeah, Napoli. Not a fully convincing win, especially when they went up a man when Rincon assaulted. I think it was Osimhen throwing goal. Yeah, and so they were playing a lot of that game with a man up, and then Elmas. Elmas is another player who comes in and does a great job because I thought Zielinski was poor last week, so Elmas comes into the starting lineup. Elmas looks great, scores the penalty, puts them 2-0 up, and they win. And then, obviously, it was a story behind them of the 2-2 draws, the dread. Apart from Juve, their closest challengers all suffered dreaded 2-2 draws. We'll start with Milan. Roma going to the San Siro, and my God, Roma, so bad. They're so poor. This Mourinho team, it's a 5-2-3, and the three up front don't work at all. It looks like really bad PSG because the front three are nothing to. They're a little bit scary. Dybala's back. Didn't have the best game, but was, trying things at least. Zaniola, I think he just flatters to deceive. I don't know. I can't remember exceptional Zaniolo runs of form, and I'm going to have to start seeing it soon. And Tammy Abraham, what can we say about the season he's having? Obviously pops up with the equaliser, great for him because I do think he's the kind of player you kind of want to see succeed. He applies himself well, but this season it hasn't happened for him at all after a very good last season. And I think I heard something on a pod about how many goals he scored in that season at Chelsea, I think under Lampard, before he sort of wasn't playing as much. And I think he had the best record of any recent number 9 at Chelsea. Admittedly, not hard to do, but when you look at the names that they're compared to, a more impressive stat that maybe we give it credit. And it sort of feeds into my Armando Broja theory that he's the type of striker who Chelsea should be using, a guy who is more in that Choupo-Moting, Eddie Nketiah role where he's not going to take all this heat for being a big name striker, but he offers you a lesser version, obviously, than the ceiling of those guys. But because of that lack of scrutiny, it might help it. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, so Roma come back with 2 set pieces, and when they scored their first one in the 84th minute, being 2-0 down, after Milan are just they're controlling the game, but they're not playing exceptionally well. Milan, they're not opening up Roma at will. I guess Roma are not a team that gets opened up at will, with especially defending with 5. But that midfield's always so open. They're so bad to watch. But yeah, when they scored it, I was thinking Milan have got to concede here. They've let it drop, and then they concede another stupid set piece in added time. Ball bounces off the wall firstly, or not bounces, but deflects off the wall to put it perfectly at the edge of the 6-yard box. Good save by Tano Rashadu to start, but Abraham's there. Milan. I wanted to say here come Milan, but no. I don't. This is going to be hard for me to do, but maybe Tio deserves a little bit of criticism. He needs to. He's not the swashbuckling Tio, and that's understandable. How to run to the final with France. I think we're starting to see the effects of the World Cup more and more on these players and teams that we've seen. Like you look at Manchester City, for example, and they had equal, and Real Madrid this in recent times, and they both, I think, had the equal most amount of players go to the World Cup, and maybe we're seeing the effects of that, whereas Arsenal and Napoli still look pretty fresh, and I don't think, considering they're very, very, very good teams, they didn't have many players go to the World Cup, so yeah, I think he's key. Leao was, he's still a moment's player though. He's not the force that Tio can be throughout the game because Tio can help that midfield. But sometimes do you want him to defend more, or do you want? It's sort of the trend. I don't know. Tio's a good enough defender to get past this. This criticism is maybe a bit harsh, but Milan very. I want to say naive, but they're defending champions. But I don't know how they can let that lead slip, and maybe depending on how the Juve Napoli game goes, maybe let the title sort of go. Because if Napoli win that, then they cut adrift. Napoli have beaten their closest challengers. Remember, they beat Milan away from home, and they didn't even have Osimhen for that game. So Sorry, Napoli have beat Milan away from home. So yeah, so they'll be in a really good stead if they beat Juve. And you've got to think that I know we're not even halfway through the season, but they just look so good that how can you touch them? Inter as well, away at Monza, concede late to draw that game 2-all. Inter just up and down. They're just a big game team. It seems they got through the group of death in the Champions League. And then they're promptly, I think they're already on 5 losses or something in the league. They beat Napoli last weekend to inflict their first defeat in the league, and then they probably go and draw with Monza. This is the story of Inter this season. I don't know. I can't pinpoint. I always say I think Simone Inzaghi is maybe not the best attacking coach, so maybe therein lies the problems. But yeah, they play. Maybe that's why they're a big game team. They play better on the counter attack, even though the defense hasn't even filled me with that much confidence this season. Inter are just a funny team this season, really. Um, that's what makes part of. They're one of the ingredients that make Serie A so entertaining. And then I guess Lazio, terrible form post World Cup, doing the Milan trick and letting a 2 goal lead slip right at the end, dragging themselves. With Roma obviously picking up a point, those two become closer now, and that race for fourth/fifth. I think if you look at the table now, I think it probably will be those four. Juve maybe still have the ability to fall off, but considering they're starting to maybe get players back in terms of Chiesa, maybe Pogba might come back at some point. Who knows? Maybe Vlahovic even comes back and helps them. So it should be enough to carry them into top four. And I think when you look at the top four right now, that's probably what it should be come the end of the season. But it's just such a fun league. Serie A continues to be a fun league, and I can't wait to, once this pod's finished, stick on Napoli v Juve and see how that one went. So, and I think just in summarising this European section, I know I went a little bit long. Surprise, surprise. But just a point on PSG before we leave it. PSG, when I watch them, the first, 20 minutes, I think, and I know I preface all of this by saying I know it was Angers. I know they're bottom of the table. I know all this. I know it's Ligue 1 as well. I know it. Okay, but the first 20 minutes, I'm just like, wow. I really like this PSG team. The balance looks better because inevitably when one of the front three is missing, the balance always looks better because they have more players who can work behind the ball, or who can. Messi, I'll give a pass because he's the greatest of all time. So if he doesn't want to exactly work out on the pitch, who am I to say that he should? So sorry, Kylian. I'm going to say that you should be working. Obviously, he wasn't playing this game. Neymar put in his fake work. I don't know. I'm getting to the point where I don't know whether fake work is better than non-work. Because he sort of runs. He gets to the point, and then he'll just sell himself in a stupid tackle and either commit a foul or just let the player run past. It's like, why'd you even bother running, man? If you're gonna run, do the work properly. So it's that. I don't want to say it, but it's that Brazilian work. It's like put in a bit of fake work up front, which is funny because you compare it to the defenders, and the defenders are some of the best defenders in the world at the moment. A lot of them, and you just look at his teammate and his captain in Marquinhos for that example, but. Yeah, PSG, I was loving them. Messi came back looking. He had a swagger. He has rightly so, but it was funny because I really thought he would, if he won the World Cup, that would be enough for him and sort of pack it in, if not physically, mentally at least. But nah, he looks like he wants to put that exclamation mark that I've been talking about on the end, that pass for the first goal. Ekitike, or I never know if it's the T or the K first. I'm going to have to learn his name because he looks like a really good player. What a finish for that goal. But then PSG do the same old act. Neymar sort of started in as one of the wide central midfielders in a 5-3-2, and then as the game progressed, he just sort of started standing up front more and more next to those front two, and Ekitike was asked to do that midfield role for large parts because Neymar just wasn't doing it anymore. Neymar's worrying me. I don't like the way he's come back. So on the flip side of loving the way Messi's come back, I don't I love the way Neymar's come back. It'll be the moment will be when it's his sister's birthday. We'll see what happens then, especially when it always coincides with the Champions League round of 16 and they have Bayern Munich. Fascinating stuff there, but yeah, Messi looked fantastic. Let's see how he and Mbappe link up when Mbappe comes back with Hakimi, being given that holiday for their World Cup exploits. But yeah, PSG, I'm loving them, and then I'm not loving them. So Neymar needs to buck his act. Neymar, like I've kept saying, and now Messi, I think, has the chance to be the second best player on this team. So that's good for PSG if Neymar does fall off. But then Galtier's going to have to be strong if Neymar falls off and is a detriment to the team in dropping him. So I still think a front. I'm not breaking any ground by saying this, but a front line of Messi and Mbappe is still good enough to win even the Champions League. Especially if it's in order to bulk up that midfield, which is their weakness. So yeah, Neymar needs to start playing like at least looking like the second best player on this team again, how he was going into the World Cup. And then interested to see how it looks when Mbappe comes back. So PSG could continue to be this roller coaster that I know that they can win anything, but I watch them and I don't know if they can win anything, if you understand. But yeah, about half an hour on Europe monologue, and I think it's time to leave it there. And as Nev always says, thanks for coming and bye for now. I think that's what he says.